Hey, what is up everybody? In today's video, we're gonna talk about the border radius property of CSS, which allows us to draw shapes like circles, ovals, or just around the corners of HTML elements. So here we have a div element with some height and width defined. And what we would like to do is to style its corners. And we can do this with the border radius property, which allows us to add rounded corners to any element. So let's define it here. Border radius, and let's add a value of 30 pixels, for example. And now we can see that our box has rounded corners. What also important to mention is that when we add some paddings or borders to an element, they are also being affected by this property. So let's add, for example, a padding here of 20 pixels and add a border of 10 pixels. Okay, but if we add margins, they won't be affected because margins add space outside of an element. I have another video about the box model which explains all the paddings, margins and borders. If you want to learn more about it, you can check it later. Now, one of the most asked questions in CSS is that how we can create a circle by using CSS. It can be done again with the border radius property. Just for that, we need to give a stronger value here. Actually, this time let's define another unit instead of pixels. We can use percentage, for example. So when we give a minimum value of 50% or even more, it completely rounds the corners from all sides and turns our box into a circle shape. If we want to have an oval shape, then we can add more height or more width to the element. Now, as you can see, giving one single value to the border radius property rounds all corners of the element. But actually, they can also be added one by one for each corner. There is also a shorthand to do that, but first let me show you the regular way. So let's say we want to round only the top left corner. To do that, let's delete this first. We need to select the border left radius property and add 50% again, which rounds only the top left corner of this box. There are also other properties for top right, and bottom left corners, but defining them here one by one fills our class with many unnecessary text, so we can use the shorthand of it. Now, if we define again the border radius property, we can define 4 values for each of the corners. The first value will be, let's say, 20 pixels for the top left corner. The second one will be for the top right corner. Then comes the bottom right. Let's make it 0. And the last one is for bottom left. Let's also make it 50%. Okay, so as we can see, the top left corner is slightly rounded. The top right and the bottom left are rounded at the maximum value, and the bottom right and the bottom right, which is the third value here, is not rounded. The border radius property of CSS gives a nice flexibility to style our box-shaped elements as circles, ovals, and other kinds of shapes. If you guys want to learn more about CSS and web development, consider subscribing to my channel, and also don't forget to activate your bell notifications, so when I upload a new video, you will get notified. Thank you guys for watching and see you later.